Have you ever seriously thought about what it takes to live to 100? I mean, it's a milestone that feels almost legendary, right? But it's actually becoming way more common. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into the science and break down what your genes, your neighborhood, and even your daily choices have to say about hitting that century mark. Okay, let's just jump right in. To really get why this is such a hot topic right now, just look at this number, 50%. According to the US Census Bureau, the number of Americans living to 100 or older shot up by 50% in just one decade. We're talking 2010 to 2020. That's not a slow crawl. That is a massive demographic shift. And that brings us to the big question we're tackling today. With this huge increase, we have more data than ever. So, what are the secrets? What's actually helping all these people live so long? First things first, let's get a handle on who these centenarians actually are. The big picture data from the US Census gives us a really fascinating first look at the demographics here. So one thing that jumps out immediately is that the 100-year-old club is overwhelmingly female. In 2020, nearly 8 out of every 10 centenarians were women. Now, this has been a pretty consistent trend in longevity research for a long time, but as you're about to see, it is not the full story. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the rate of change. Yeah, women still dominate in sheer numbers, but the male centenarian population grew by a whopping 85% in that same decade. That's more than double the growth rate for females. So men are catching up, and they are catching up fast. But, demographics are just one piece of the puzzle. It turns out that where you live also plays a huge part. A major study out of Washington State took a deep dive into the environmental side of things. And what they found is pretty mind-blowing. So researchers looked at this massive data set. We're talking records from nearly 145,000 people who passed away at 75 or older. Their whole goal was to see if they could find specific things about a neighborhood that gave some people a better shot at hitting that 100-year mark. And they found some super clear patterns. Living in a really walkable neighborhood, that was a big one. It makes sense, right? It encourages you to stay active and makes it easy to get to stores and services. Living in a more well-off area was another factor. And, interestingly, living in a place with more age diversity, meaning more working-age people around, was also linked to a longer life. Okay, but here's where that Washington study gets really wild. Some of its findings completely flip our common assumptions about longevity right on their head. It's really surprising. We tend to think things like having a higher education or being married are good for a long life. But this study found the opposite. A lower level of education was actually linked to a greater chance of reaching 100. And even crazier, being widowed, divorced, or never married were all more strongly linked to becoming a centenarian than being married was. So you're probably wondering why? Well, the researchers themselves offered up a possible explanation. They think that for the widowed group, the incredible stress of losing a partner might have happened much earlier in life, giving them more time to adapt and move past it. It's a really complex finding that just shows how much we still have to learn. Okay, so we've looked at the big picture and where you live. Now let's zoom in all the way down to the individual, because obviously your genes, your health, and your choices are a massive part of the equation. And for this, we're going to turn to the amazing Hawaii Centenarian Study. Now, this wasn't just a quick survey. This was a huge, long-term study that followed thousands of Japanese American men for decades. They tracked everything from health habits to genetics, all to see who would ultimately live the longest. And one of the key discoveries from this research was the importance of a specific gene variant called FOXO3. You can kind of think of it as a longevity gene. The men who lived into their 90s and hundreds were way more likely to have it, which points to a powerful genetic link to a long life. But it's not just one thing, and this table lays it out perfectly. Genetics, like having that FOXO3 gene or a father who lived a long time, definitely played a part. But so did keeping your mind sharp, staying physically independent, and of course, those crucial health behaviors like not smoking or drinking. Good health, a strong social circle, it all adds up. It's the whole picture of your life. So after digging into all this data, the demographics, the environment, our own biology, what have we learned? Let's put all the pieces of the puzzle together. You can really think of it as a 3-part recipe for reaching 100. First, your genes can give you a nice little nudge in the right direction. Second, your neighborhood sets the stage, giving you the support and opportunities for healthy living. And finally, your own personal choices, from your health habits to your friendships, are what ultimately steer the ship. It's how all three work together that really shapes your path. And all of this leaves us with one last big thought. As living to 100 goes from being this incredible rarity to something that's more and more achievable, what does that mean for our society, for our families, and for how we plan our own lives? It's a question we're all going to be facing a lot sooner than we think.